For the past 2 years, I've redrawn this image of Tohru and Kyo from Fruits Basket just in Halloween costumes, and because it is getting closer to October and Halloween as a whole, I figured I wanted to do some more Halloween drawings, so I decided I would actually go ahead and redraw this image for a third time. So with the first two images that I ended up drawing, I actually did them both in Copics, and I know last year I decided to do it in Copics because I did the first one in Copics, but I haven't really been using my markers a lot lately, and I really wanted to get back into doing watercolor, so I decided to go ahead and change up the medium for this year's version. And I ended up doing this on the Arteza watercolor pad that I have. This is their more professional, I think it's called professional paper versus their other ones, and this is such nice watercolor paper. It's super thick and it has a very nice texture and feel to it, and it holds a lot of washes. Like this baby holds a lot of water without buckling too much, so I'm glad I decided to do it on this paper because I ended up putting a lot of water down and just a lot of stuff in general. So right off the bat, I think the most noticeable difference, which is a very noticeable difference, about the last ones I have done of this drawing, like the last paintings I've done, or drawings technically, they weren't paintings. Anyways, the biggest difference is that this year I decided to do a background for this piece, and that is definitely something that I've been wanting to do with more drawings lately. I've wanted to do characters in a background, characters in a setting, versus just only drawing characters or only drawing backgrounds, which even backgrounds as a whole I haven't drawn a whole lot of, but that's something that I've both mentioned that I've wanted to work on and just integrate more of into my artwork, and something that I just I need to do for myself because I really want to expand my horizons with backgrounds and be more comfortable with them. If anything, I just want to know that I can do backgrounds and characters at the same time, so I decided to do this. This was something that was kind of a spur of the moment decision. Initially I was actually just going to redraw the characters just floating with nothing going on in the background, but out of the blue I kind of just decided I want to do a background with this piece, so that's what I ended up doing. And while it's definitely not the most complex background that I could possibly do, all things considered, this is a fairly simple background. I'm still really proud of myself for just going out of my way to do it on my own and just playing around with it, because I do think it changed the piece a lot, and it was very enjoyable for me to do, and it was definitely something that I've wanted to work on, so I'm glad I pushed myself and ended up doing it that way. I did struggle a little bit with doing this because I haven't touched watercolors that much in quite some time. This is the first time I've actually sat down and done a watercolor painting. For the past couple months I've only really touched watercolors for 5 minutes at a time. So it was definitely nice to get back to it because I really do enjoy using my watercolors, and I definitely want to expand my watercolor collection and try more professional watercolors, so that's definitely something that I hope to get into in the future. I want to try the professional Winsor & Newton watercolors. Right now I'm using the Shinhan. They say they're professional watercolors, but I believe these are the student grade Shinhan paints, which are still really nice, mind you. They're very vibrant, they're not chalky at all, and I've used these paints for so long. These are my favorite watercolors that I own, but I definitely want to get some that are genuine professional watercolor paints, and I just kind of want to expand my collection because there's not a whole large selection that I have that I use on a regular basis. I pretty much just stick to using the Shinhan palette, so I would like to try different watercolors in the near future. So for this piece, I decided to keep their outfits the same. I dressed up Tohru as a cat because she loves cats, and then Kyo's a vampire because he's angsty, and in my opinion, vampires are angsty. So that's the costume choice, and I decided to just have them walking down a street together. I kind of messed with the background when I was sketching it. Initially I wanted them to be on the sidewalk, so because it's kind of weird that they're walking on the road, but it wasn't working, so I ended up doing it so they were walking on the side of the road. Also, something that I am not super happy about is I didn't really notice until the piece was finished and I was holding it in front of me, is that the proportions on their bodies aren't that right. Their legs should be longer than they are, but overall, looking at the finished piece, I am really happy with how it turned out actually, because this is something that I don't do often. First and foremost, I hardly ever work out of something that's not my sketchbook. I hardly ever work off of just like regular watercolor paper or any kind of loose paper. Most of the art that I create is within my sketchbook, which I personally don't have a problem with because it keeps everything very nicely organized, and if I have a sketchbook that I enjoy working with and has like nice paper, it doesn't really make a difference. But I'm definitely not the kind of artist who works on loose paper all the time. So just the fact that I ended up using this watercolor paper is a mystery in of its own. I really do like this paper though. If they had sketchbooks, like bound sketchbooks with this watercolor paper, I would definitely get those. They do have some like bound sketchbooks, but they're different watercolor paper. But this is very nice paper, so I'm glad I'm getting around to actually using more of it, because I think I have like 10 more sheets, plus it's double-sided paper, so if I really wanted to get crazy, I could use the other side, which I probably won't because I don't want to risk like ruining the initial drawing to begin with. I also struggled with what I wanted to do for the line work of this piece. Initially, I started going at it with a really tiny brush and painting the details and painting the line work with watercolor, but I had already spent like an hour and a half working on this piece, just painting it, and while that may be not the most time that I could spend working on a single piece of art, I wanted to be done, and I wanted it to be done faster. So I actually decided to go ahead and use a pink micron to line most of the piece, and then I went in with a black Uniball Signo gel pen just to add some like deeper, darker lines, which I like doing. Whenever I have pink line art, I like to do little pops of black here and there just to add depth in certain places. Plus, in my opinion, it looks really nice when there's multiple colors going on for the line work, so that is personally just how I like to do things. I also decided to go ahead and take a white Uniball Signo gel pen and just outline the characters to kind of further separate them from the background. There were a lot of similar tones within the piece, so I think it really helped adding that white gel pen outline around them just so it separated them more. And that way their like outlines were more defined and it just looked a lot better in my opinion. And then I was adding stars in the sky, and somehow that turned into me adding sparkles all over the entire piece with the white gel pen, which I do really like the way that turned out. I feel like it helps break up all the dark colors that are around the piece, so it is what it is. I used to do that a lot like a year or two ago with my art. I got a little crazy with doing like sparkles everywhere, but that's okay. It transitioned into this, which is just doing it a little bit here and there. But yeah, that is how this piece turned out. Like I said, there are things that if I were to redraw this again already, there are things that I would change about it, but I'm really proud of myself for going out of my comfort zone and drawing something that has a background and it's Fruits Basket related, so I really like that because I love Fruits Basket and I could talk about Fruits Basket for so long, which is why I decided not to do that in this video. I went out of my way to talk about other things. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.